Hi, you're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Soraya Mia. Malaysia's fourth industrial master plan was launched today by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. Known as the New Industrial Master Plan, or NIMP 2030, he says it will require around 95 billion ringgit worth of investments throughout 7 years.
The New Industrial Master Plan 2030, or NIMP 2030, is a key component of Ekonomi Madani as it will support the realization of economic reforms. It will revitalize the manufacturing sector to ensure Malaysia remains resilient amidst growing challenges and mega trends. The NIMP is designed to drive Malaysia's trajectory as a global leader in industrial development, extend the domestic linkages to create wealth across the nation, as well as strengthen its position in the global value chain.
The plan's 4 missions include advancing economic complexity, a digitally vibrant nation, striving for a net zero future, and safeguarding economic security and inclusivity. Anwar also said the NIMP 2030 is expected to provide employment for 3.3 million people through the creation of high-skilled jobs.
The NIMP 2030 aims to revitalize the country's manufacturing sector and increase its value by 6.5% to 587 billion ringgit. Economist Professor Dr. Jeffrey Williams assesses if the goal is feasible within a 7-year time frame.
95 billion ringgit will be spent, but I've checked out, and this is for the whole of the period, the whole of the 7-year period. So this would be an investment of about 13.5 billion ringgit per year, which actually isn't very much, all things considered, and the government will contribute only around 10% of that, which would be 1.3 billion ringgit per year for 7 years. So it doesn't appear to me that you would be able to achieve a great deal in terms of industrial transformation from that type of investment. And also the 7-year period is actually very small, very short. And so when one talks about industrial transformation, to try to do that in 7 years with 95 billion doesn't appear to me to be possible. I mean, it appears to me to be a very ambitious idea that you can generate that level of transformation in such a short period with such a small amount of money.
Jeffrey highlighted several gaps within the plan, adding that they require further elaboration from the government.
In addition to the 5 key areas that have been set out, there is an additional area which is the use of rare earths and other metals, forms of commodity-based industrial growth that are going to be necessary for electric vehicles and solar panels and various forms of green industry type activities. So actually there are 6. Now some of these are pretty straightforward. Petrochemicals, of course, draws naturally on Petronas and a very long history of investment in that area. But there are some which appear to me to be rather unusual. For example, the claim that there will be a big push on pharmaceuticals. Malaysia doesn't really have much of a foundation in the pharmaceutical industry. And so to be pushing on that over the space of the next 7 years, when Malaysia's largest pharmaceutical company is currently a PN17 company, appears to me to be something that needs a great deal more explanation. How do you expect that Malaysia, with no particular infrastructure in pharmaceuticals, would compete with the likes of Pfizer, AstraZeneca, or even Ranbaxy in India, which is a generic pharmaceutical company? And also the focus on aerospace. Again, Malaysia doesn't really have much of an existing infrastructure in aerospace. And so to try to develop that in infrastructure in such a short period of 7 years, to me, requires a great deal more by way of explanation.
Jeffrey says Malaysia should focus on building the foundations of its existing industrial infrastructure. This includes empowering small and medium enterprises, which make up the majority of businesses in the country.
To give credit where it's due. The new industrial master plan does have a focus for the development of small and medium-sized enterprises. And I think that there is a very important contribution to be made in the development of SMEs. And in Malaysia, we often use this term, that it is the backbone of the economy, but actually it's only providing 8% of manufacturing and 9% of manufacturing exports. So it isn't actually the backbone of the industrial economy in Malaysia. So helping the SMEs through the new industrial plan will be a very important catalyst, hopefully, to raise their value added, improve the employment opportunities amongst SMEs, and particularly improve the salaries of people who are employed in industrial SMEs.
On to other news, Dato' Ahmad Teraruddin Muhammad Saleh has been named the new Attorney General, replacing Tan Sri Idrus Harun. Chief Secretary to the government, Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, says the Yang di-Pertuan Agong consented to the appointment, which takes effect on September 6.
Ahmad Teraruddin was previously a Federal Court Chief Registrar before being appointed as Solicitor General in 2020. He will assume the new role when Idrus's contract ends on September 5th. Idrus was first appointed as Attorney General for a 2-year term on March 6, 2020, under Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin's administration. His tenure was extended for another year in 2022, when Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob was Prime Minister.
The proposed law to create an independent children's commission is expected to be tabled in the next Parliament sitting in October. Law and Institutional Reforms Minister Datuk Sri Azalina Uthman Said says the bill comes after engagements with key stakeholders, including child commissioners in various countries.
Earlier today, child activists from various organizations wrote a statement supporting an independent children's commission, recommending that it should have the power to make policy changes as well as enforcement. The Children's Commission is currently placed under the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, Suhakam, but Azalina earlier said that it should no longer be placed under the agency, as the latter mostly handles human rights matters. She reaffirmed that the Children's Commission should not be a government agency, but rather be enabled to monitor and assist government agencies in coming up with best practices to protect children's rights.
We'll go for a quick break. Stay tuned.
Wow, banyaknya notification. Ada banyak soalan ni. I pilih lagi satu. Soalan ni dari Suna Najib. Dia tanya, macam mana nak dapat wifi kencang? Senang je. Kalau berminat, WhatsApp hi ke 0395433838. Lepas tu, pilih nombor 2. Nanti tim kencang jawab. Jangan lupa bagi tahu bajet dengan keperluan isi rumah dulu. Ada berapa pengguna, berapa peranti, itu penting kena tahu tu. Tapi jangan risau, router Wi-Fi 6 ni confirm kencang walaupun 10 orang guna serentak. Power kan? Ada soalan lain? Jangan malu-malu. Layari astro.com.my/fiber untuk info lanjut tentang tag dan promosi terkini.
Wow, jangan mencarut di depan pub. Tadi Sani sudah call saya jerit-jerit, sekarang dia hantar masa lah. Apa hal?
Meja saya biasa banjir lah.
Tumpah kopi orang ni belas je.
Polis Evo 3. Sewa dan stream on demand atau sila ke saluran 480.
On the foreign front, vote counting is underway as Singaporeans cast their ballots for the country's 9th president today. This is the first presidential contest in over a decade, which sees 3 candidates campaign to become the nation's next head of state. The candidates include former Deputy Prime Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam, widely regarded as the preferred candidate of the ruling People's Action Party. The others are Ng Kok Song, the former Chief Investment Officer at Sovereign Wealth Fund, GIC, and former NTUC Income Chief, Tan Kin Lian. The victor will take over from Singapore's first female president, Halimah Yaakob. Halimah was the only candidate to qualify for the election in 2017, after Parliament amended the Constitution a year before to introduce more ethnic diversity to the role. Thai King Maha Vajiralongkorn has reduced Thaksin Shinawat's 8-year prison sentence to 1 year. An official statement by the Royal Gazette said Thaksin has accepted his crime and showed remorse, adding that the former Prime Minister was ill.
On Thursday, Thaksin submitted a request for a royal pardon, and the application was received by the acting Justice Minister Wisanu Krungam. Wisanu, who is also caretaker Deputy Prime Minister, however, declined to reveal if the request covered all 3 cases that Thaksin was ordered to serve in the total 8 years. He also confirmed that Thaksin was still in the Police General Hospital, following his admission just hours after being sent to prison on August 22. Thaksin made a dramatic homecoming last week after 15 years abroad, where he lived in self-exile to avoid prison. He was ousted in a military coup in September 2006, after his then Thai Rak Thai party won a clean sweep of power, becoming Thailand's first single-party government.
Meanwhile, South Korea will employ 100 foreign domestic workers as part of a pilot program in a bid to boost birth rates by helping more women rejoin the workforce. The project also aims to address a dwindling number of locals willing to work as domestic workers, despite rising demand, on top of its historic reluctance to accept more immigrants.
South Korea is currently in talks with the Philippines as one of the potential sources of workers, as it aims to start the pilot program as early as December. The 100 people, mostly from Southeast Asian countries, will provide housekeeping and infant care services for approximately 6 months. Priority for the project will be given to households where both husband and wife are in their 20s to 40s and are working, as well as for single-parent families, households with pregnant women, and families with multiple children. Officials said there is a dwindling number of young Koreans interested in domestic work, on top of current rules that only allow certain foreigners, such as spouses of Korean nationals and ethnic Koreans, to work as household workers. At the same time, many Korean women also face the pressure to stay home and raise families or opt not to have a child due to the high cost of raising children. South Korea reported the world's lowest fertility rate again in 2022, with the average number of expected babies for each woman standing at 0.78 and Seoul even lower at 0.59.
In other news, most of Hong Kong and parts of southern mainland China ground to a near standstill, with businesses and schools shut and flights cancelled as Super Typhoon Saola edges closer. Chinese authorities have already issued their highest typhoon warning, as Saola is expected to make landfall tonight or Saturday morning in Guangdong, which borders Hong Kong.
The Hong Kong Observatory raised a number 8 typhoon signal, the 3rd highest warning under the city's weather system, earlier on Friday. Stock market trading was suspended and more than 400 flights were cancelled or delayed in the key centre for regional business and travel. In China's technology hub, Shenzhen, financial markets were closed from Friday afternoon, with construction sites grinded to a halt. Meanwhile, fishing boats in China's southeastern Fujian and Guangdong provinces were moored to their harbours as over 100,000 people were evacuated from danger zones. Packing winds of more than 200 kilometers per hour, Saola could be among the 5 strongest typhoons to hit Guangdong since 1949.
That report wraps up the show tonight. You are watching AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again.